Hello and welcome everyone, this is Minu at AnglerLink. Today we're going to look at 4 modal verbs: can, could, may, and might. We'll start by looking at their formulation briefly, and then we'll move on to their usage. As you know, each modal verb has one or several specific functions in the language, and therefore it's important that you know the usage very well. By the end of the lesson, you'll have some clear guidelines on how to use can, could, may, and might. Today's prize is a free Premium Plus membership on our website, anglerlink.com. This level of membership will give you access to all our online exercises, plus the audio recording of these exercises. It's a really useful tool to help you improve all your skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking and pronunciation. To enter the prize draw, all you need to do is to leave a comment in the section below. So, when you're ready, we can begin with today's modal verbs. Modal verbs: can, could, may, might. Let's start with formulation. All modal verbs have the following features in common. They're always followed by the infinitive without to. They're the same for all the pronouns. They do not need auxiliaries. They take direct negative and question forms. And finally, they never combine with another modal verb. Let's look at some common mistakes. A very common mistake is using an infinitive with to after a modal. Remember that modals take the infinitive without to. I can sing. Or she could run fast. Second common mistake is conjugating for he, she, and it, adding s to your verb. Remember that modals are the same for all pronouns. So it's she can swim. It might rain. Right, the third category of mistakes is using an auxiliary with the modal verb. Modal verbs take direct questions and negative forms. So the correct question is, can you do this? The correct negative is, he may not like it. And finally, as I just said, modal verbs do not combine with each other. So for this sentence, you can just keep the modal verb can, she can come tomorrow, or use a synonym for can and keep will. She will be able to come tomorrow. Right then, let's look at the usage of each of these modal verbs, starting with can. The first usage is to express an ability or lack of ability in the present or future. For example, I can see you at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Can you manage that? Or, they cannot dance. Or they can't dance. The second usage of can is giving or not giving permission. For example, you can use my office. Or, you cannot smoke here. You can't smoke here. You will see later that in order to ask for permission, we use the modal may. Moving on to could. The first usage is again ability or lack of ability, but in the past. For example, I could read without glasses last year. I could not sleep last night. I couldn't sleep last night. Right, the second common usage of could is for making a request. In this case, it's always in the question form. For example, could you repeat that, please? Could we have a break, please? And the third usage of could is making a suggestion. In this case, could is only used in the affirmative. What do you suggest we have for dinner? We could have fish. Right. Moving on to may now. As I've just mentioned, we use may to ask for permission. For example, may I use your pen? May we have a look? And to remind you, to give permission or not to give permission, we use can, as we just saw. The second usage of may is to indicate a strong possibility in the present or future. For example, it may happen again. She may not accept the offer. And finally, let's look at might. Might is also used to express a possibility in the present or future, and it's slightly weaker than may. So we can also say, it might happen again. We can also use could, but may and might are more common for possibilities. She might not accept the offer. We do not use could in the negative for a possibility. And finally, the second usage of might is a possibility in the past. In this case, it's followed by have done. He might have missed his train. Once again, you can also use could. He could have missed his train. But not in the negative. I might not have managed to convince her. Just a little note on possibilities. May can also be used to show a possibility in the past, but it is less common than might and could. So you could hear he might have missed his train, he could have missed his train, or he may have missed his train. However, you must avoid using may in a third conditional sentence. So in this sentence, if I had studied more, you can only say, I would have passed my test, I might have passed my test, or I could have passed my test. Avoid using may. And one more thing. We tend to overuse the modal verb can. In very informal contexts, we tend to use can instead of the appropriate modal verb. Although this is acceptable, it's always best to use the correct modal verb in formal situations and particularly in exams. Let's look at some examples. For a request, in an informal situation, you might hear, "Can you open the door?" However, the correct modal is could. Could you open the door? Asking for permission. Once again, in an informal, friendly context, you may hear, "Can I use the phone?" But the correct modal here is may. May I use the phone? To make a suggestion, you might hear, "We can meet next week." But as you have seen, the correct modal here is could. We could meet next week. And finally, for a possibility in the present or the future, it can happen again. But as we've just seen, the better modals are it may happen again, strong possibility, or it might or could happen again. Okay, it's time for our gap-filling exercise. In this exercise, I'd like you to choose among the 4 modals we've just looked at: can, could, may, or might. Let's begin. You speak German? Can you speak German? Yes, I can. I speak it fluently when we lived in Germany. I could speak it fluently when we lived in Germany. Why do you ask? I need this letter translated into German. Do you think you do it? Do you think you can do it? Let me see. Yes, I be able to. I might be able to. It take a little time though. It could take a little time though. And of course, I need a dictionary too. I may need a dictionary too. I borrow yours? May I borrow yours? Of course. Oh, wait, my sister have taken it. My sister might have taken it. Let me go and have a look. No, it's here. You borrow it. You can borrow it. Oh yes, your sister is a German teacher. You have asked her. You could have asked her. She's on holiday at the moment, and this, wait. This can't wait. I need it for tomorrow. I not be able to do it for tomorrow. I might not be able to do it for tomorrow. But I do it for Wednesday. But I can do it for Wednesday. Wonderful. You email it to me when you have finished? Could you email it to me when you have finished? Sure. Right, that's the end of the gap-filling exercise and our lesson on these modals. As you know, you can now go to our website, anglolink.com, for further explanations and exercises on modal verbs. Thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you in our next video. Bye now!